Superbooth 19. I'm here at the booth of 1010music with Aaron. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Tom?
Fine. A bit tired already, but it's the second day and it becomes louder and louder, I think.
Yes.
I think Erica SYNTH is beginning the party again.
Yes.
And for you, every day on the same booth here, is it not too much
Every day
noise?
is a party. Every day is a party. It's fun. We're glad to be here.
1010music is a company which we know from modules, from touch display modules. How do you come to the idea of making in a module a touch display? Because it's something that people many polarize because they say, I don't need a touch display because it's too much computer-like. So what is coming from your background, this touch display, or where did you decide to make this?
So my background is as a desktop and iOS developer. So touchscreens are a sort of natural process of how I've been developing code for a long time. So it seemed like a natural extension to take all the best ideas from iOS apps and from plugins and to steal them and repackage them first into modules and then see where we could take that from there.
What is your, because I am pretty sure that how the people react to your modules is quite polarized. Somebody said, no, that's absolutely not my workflow, other one really love it. So what do you hear from your people, from your customers,
right.
or hear from the Superbooth?
So we've heard a lot of different things. I mean, certainly touchscreens are not for everybody. Some people love them, some people hate them, but as long as we can make 20 or even 10% of people really, really happy, we feel that that's a success. And the great thing about modular is anything goes. It's all about making your own special instrument, and having a touchscreen and having something visual to look at is appealing to at least some people.
And you are a US-based company?
Yes, we're virtual. We're based in Los Angeles, but employ resources in a variety of places around the world.
And your first module was the Bitbox or the...
Yes. The first module we released in 2016 was Bitbox, which is a sampler looper. And that's just the beginning, and it enabled us to learn about building modules and about interchanging software between different functions and how you can modulate and all the kinds of tricks that people want to do.
And at this moment now, how many engines are available for this Bitbox for the module?
So there's currently 3 products available for the Bitbox. Both the synthesizer, SynthBox, an effects processing unit called EffectsBox, and of course the original recipe Bitbox, which is the sampler.
What do you think is the future of this system? You will add new stuff to it, or you think now it's for you quite okay, it's fine?
We're never completely satisfied with the products, and neither are our users. There's always, software can always do something else, and we have an enormous feature request list, and we really thank our users for asking for more and more things.
I hear at the heart of a software guy, which always want to add new features. I think hardware guys are we're making it and then it's fine, stop it. But when I'm in contact with plugin guys or with other developers in the software department, it's always, what can I add to it?
Right, I mean, admittedly with the fixed hardware platform like we're shipping, there are some limits, but there's always new possibilities and new alternative sister firmwares that we could do.
How big is this platform where you're building on? Is it so open that you can add more and more to the platform, or is it so quite limited on the power resources?
Yeah, it's kind of somewhere in between. I mean, it's like an iPhone. You can swap out different apps and do radically different things, but there's becomes limits to how much you can do at once, and how many inputs and outputs you can fully utilize. So it's more the iPhone model is probably the best example.
And you make now on Simplex, I think you premiered for the first time a desktop unit.
That's
what
right.
Makes a lot of buzz in the internet, on Facebook and everywhere.
Yes, we're privileged to announce a new product that's essentially the greatest hits of our modules, combining the sampling of Bitbox, some of the sequencing of Toolbox, and the effects processing, a small amount of the effects processing in EffectsBox into one box. We're just inspired by the move to tabletop units, how they can do quite a bit more, but people expect more from them, but they can contribute to a smaller setup and appeal to a broader audience.
As you said now, it's based on the 2 modules, right? The sample and the effects module, or?
As well as the sequencer, so 3 modules.
So 3-in-1. So you said before in my talk with you, you changed the processor in this unit.
So right, so we upgraded the processor because obviously being able to do multiple things requires more CPUs. So we did take a pretty big step up in processing power and reconfigured the outputs and even improved the screen along the way.
So what people are saying on the net, it's only from your rack to the desktop, that's wrong. It's more than this.
Right, it really is a superset in all ways, that more processing power. I guess most of the features, a handful of modular specific, rack specific things aren't there, but it's meant to do more at once.
And we have here, I think, the unit on display makes the black box. It's not Bitbox, it's now Blackbox.
So what makes Blackbox different is largely the form factor, that within a single 500 gram unit, you've got a touchscreen, multiple buttons and knobs and other controls to do a variety of functions. On the output side, you've got USB power, so you can plug this into a USB battery, or you can plug this into a phone charger or the airplane or the car. Lots of different ways to power the unit. You've got the ability to host USB controllers, so things like a key step or a small pad controller like this one, or up to something very, very big. You've also got MIDI and clock, and more importantly, you've got lots of audio I/O, and this audio is DC coupled, CV capable audio. So it's, in other words, you can connect this to a modular setup or even a tabletop setup like a Zero Coast from Make Noise, and do CV sampling and CV playback all in one box.
This thing that you can running with batteries, it was one of your key features, I think. It
Yes.
can make it super portable.
It does make it super portable, and it also makes it really handy to connect with all the other gear, like key step and beat steps and things that use USB together, so you could have one power brick take care of it all.
And if you put now a power bank on it, how long can we expect a battery run? For example, if I put a 10,000 milliampere for the standard of a battery pack, so how long can we jam around with it, do you think?
Our very preliminary numbers show that a 10,000 milliamp battery pack will do about 8 hours of playback.
That's a lot for such a powerful unit. And from the engine, as you said, it's a sampler. So how many different instruments can be stored in?
So it's arranged in 16 pads, so 16 samples, which largely means 16 instruments, but you can take it a step deeper. For example, you do things like slicing. Like if I show you this example here, you've got a drum loop. You've got essentially a short phrase of drums, but we're using the external controller, I can play the different things. So you could really consider this multiple instruments in one. Simple answer, 16 instruments. A more complicated answer, 16 variations of instruments.
So is it automatic, detection inside slicer, or how do you?
There's several ways to go. You can both automatically detect, you've got threshold control, you can use a grid-based input. You can also use wave files that have cue points marked in them. So many of the cue points inside many different software like SoundForge and Reaper will generate wave files that have this stuff pre-marked, so you don't need to edit it. And finally, if none of those methods work, you can drill in specifically on the device and manipulate, edit, add, change cue points to get exactly what you need.
And what kind of files are supported? Wave files, of course, I think. But how the sample format must be a wave file, or what kind of you supported?
So the sample formats are pretty open. It has to be a wave file, but it can be stereo or mono. Essentially any sample rate. It can be 16, 24, or 32-bit. That will all get converted on the fly.
It's wave file, and all are supported, or only wave file?
It's only wave, but in addition to wave, it's supporting the sample chunk for sample loop points. It's supporting the acid chunk for beat counts, and I think it's tempo. And then lastly, the cue points, which is another wave-specific wave standard, so you can get cue points.
So it can handle stereo
It can absolutely can handle stereo files.
And what I see on the backside, you said it has 3 outputs. So you can map them to the different to different outputs, or how this works?
Yeah, so each sample can go to any of the outputs, which means actual 6 outputs. It can be organized as 3 stereo pairs or 6 mono outputs. In addition to that, you have an headphone output that consolidates all the outputs into one.
You see, we have now samplers, so there's no synth included. So there's no, but you can you? It's possible to use, for example, single cycle waveforms and then make a synth.
You can certainly use single cycle waveforms. It's really best suited for full samples like notes. Like if I can show you a quick example here on this page, you've got a bass note that's just several cycles, but you can. At least the enveloping is built in, and you've got some tonal control. Single cycle waveforms will work, but failing a filter or failing the ability to scan waveforms, it's going to not be as useful as simply sampling something with the full development.
And from the sequencer side, and you have also effect on board. So
yes. So the
for each effect, or is this for each effect, or is this for the global one only?
It's a bust effect. So you've got, here in the effects window, you've got two different effects. Effects 1 is a delay, effects 2 is a reverb, and on each pad you have the ability to control how much is sent to the delay or reverb. So a pretty typical arrangement for bust effects.
Talking for sequencing, how intensive is the sequencer, or how big?
So the sequencer is comprised of 16 different cells. Each cell can play up to 128 steps, and each of these steps can play any of the internal pads, both the pads in a non-pitched mode or in pitched mode. So essentially you could do a full arrangement on each cell, which gives you room to work to have like the bass part be on one side, or a few variations be in different cells, or even like a full-blown drum pattern all the way out to 4 bars if you like. And further, if you choose different step sizes. The step sizes can span from 64th notes up to 8 bars.
And you can also live recording in the sequencer? Or?
Yes, the sequencer does both. You can do live recording via the screen or via a MIDI input. You could also step, you've got piano roll input. If you want to get in, if you want to zoom and enter each note manually, you could. It's far easier to do it in real time and maybe edit it if you need it.
Okay. And I see you have also a song mode, so...
Right, song mode is where you can group any number of different sequences together. So the sequences can be played individually, they can be played together, and the song mode allows you to sort of sequence the sequences.
Finally, I see there's a mixer. Maybe...
So the mixer is a handy way to see all the different pads in a single screen to control volume and pan at once, and when you're playing it back, there will be indicators of what's being heard.
Unit has how much space on it, or you?
So the unit has 64 megabytes of RAM, but that's deceiving because samples are streamed from the micro SD card. So anything that's small can be loaded into cache. Anything that's long, including stuff that's hours in length, can be streamed from the micro SD card in real time.
Is memory, because we know memory is cheap internally. We have iPhones, we have other stuff. Right. What came to the decision that you put less memory on the device internally than you need to make a micro SD on it? So
ultimately, the micro SD is incredibly cheap. Like you can get a 512 gigabyte card for $100. You can get a much more reasonable card for 10 or 20. It seems like that's still radically going to outpace what you can do on chip. Like even if you had a gigabyte of on-chip memory, that's tens of minutes, and it's pretty easy to run out if you're not careful. So we just felt streaming's going to give you practically unlimited room to work, whereas the RAM is always going to be a bottleneck at some time.
So with the micro SD card, you are near endless possibilities with your samples. So
right, you're probably going to be bored with how many samples you can fit on there, or run out of a sensible way to organize your files before you're going to run out of room on a card.
Sample lovers, you have now a machine for it.
That's right, you have no excuse.
Then we have preset SC and some tools. And what is now the future of this thing? You think you go the same direction as the Bitbox, that you add new features to it, or it's more for you a more closed system?
We absolutely expect to have more features. I mean, there's lots of things we could do. There's lots of things we have already done on our modules. We're really, at this point, waiting to get the first products out to market, see what the most popular feature requests are. I can say that the initial feedback has been quite positive, and we have way more features than we can ever possibly have time to put together, and I expect that to only continue. So yes, the future is more software and more features. Exactly what those are remain to be seen.
We talked before the video, and I say to him, how about granular? That's something which is missing on the market. We don't have a lot of granular hardware, and it should be a no-brainer, especially for people who's loving this technology. So please, granular. Okay. Otherwise, you put in this video the hashtag granular or 1010music granular.
Yeah, granular. That's a really interesting idea.
Please, granular. So we can expect a lot of maybe some new features coming to this platform.
You can expect it to evolve over time, and thanks very much for your support and your feedback to make that happen. And thanks for your suggestion for granular.
It would be a killer because we have some, and we know from Netherlands, from the GR1 is always sold out, and one more hardware granular would be killer. Also for me personally, I'm a big granular fan, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, Aaron. Is the Blackbox already on the market, or should we a bit waiting time?
So the next run of production is going to be due by end of May. The list price is $599 US. We're still figuring out exactly what that means in Europe. So please check back with us, check with your favorite retailer. In some cases they've got pre-orders. We can certainly add you to our mailing list at 1010music.com, and we'll be happy to let you know when we know more.
And the future of 1010music, you are working actually on already new stuff? Probably.
Yeah, we're always busy. There's always more stuff to be done, and thanks for the feedback on the forums. We definitely look there in terms of where to go next.
But I think it's not the end of the year. You're still working on your modules. It's just now you're doing also desktop units.
Yes, in fact, thank you for asking that question, because we've just in the very past few days taken the features that we developed for Blackbox and put them on the Bitbox. There's been some improvements there, like some of the recording modes, some of the exclusive groupings. So you can expect to see things working both directions.
Okay, thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
I wish you a good Superbooth 19. I suppose not that it not becomes too loud in the last day tomorrow. And so I wish you good luck for the Blackbox. I'm pretty sure it becomes a success because people are wishing for a sampler, and this is the unit with battery powered via battery pack. So I say I'm pretty sure it will be a success. Big thanks, Aaron.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do a positive thumb, and as usual, don't forget to comment below. I will try to answer as soon as possible. Big thanks, and see you soon in one of the next Superbooth videos. Ciao.